Welcome to our deep dive on in-state tuition and why immigration legality alone often isn't enough. In this video, we will lay out the facts, clear up myths, and give you a realistic roadmap. To begin, let's set the stage with what we'll cover today. First, I'll outline the common myth about in-state tuition. Next, we'll clarify the difference between immigration legality and state domicile. Then, we'll list the exact kinds of proof states and schools often require. After that, we'll unpack the catch-22 many immigrants face and the risks of relying on pending status changes. Moving on, we'll provide a step-by-step roadmap, test your knowledge with quick quizzes, and finish with key takeaways. Before we proceed, this content is educational and not legal advice. Laws and policies vary by state and institution and can change. You should consult a qualified immigration attorney and, where relevant, a residency officer or financial aid advisor at your institution for guidance tailored to your situation. With that foundation, let's move into the core myth we need to debunk. The most persistent myth is that any form of legal immigration status automatically leads to in-state tuition. That is false. Legality and in-state classification use different tests. Now, let's clearly separate the two concepts. Immigration legality is a federal matter. Examples include TPS, a student visa, permanent residency, or citizenship. Domicile, however, is defined by state law and focuses on your intent to make the state your permanent home. In-state tuition hinges on domicile. Therefore, simply having legal status does not automatically satisfy domicile. With that clarified, let's compare the two more directly. On the left is immigration legality, governed by federal law. It can be temporary or permanent and does not, by itself, establish that you intend to live in a specific state. On the right is domicile, which is governed by state law and school policy and requires evidence of intent to remain indefinitely, usually supported by time and financial ties like taxes, leases, driver's licenses, or voter registration. Now that we've set up the contrast, we'll dive into what evidence typically proves domicile. To prove domicile, most states and schools require a minimum physical presence, often 6 to 12 months, completed before the residency determination date. Financial independence is commonly expected, meaning your own income and resources, not dependence on out-of-state sponsors. Obtain a state driver's license or ID promptly after moving, file state taxes as a resident if eligible, and maintain housing such as a lease or deed in your name. Utility bills and other monthly obligations further support your claim. Civic ties, such as voter registration if eligible, vehicle registration, and involvement in community activities, also strengthen evidence. With the evidence in mind, let's look at the immigration-specific catch-22. Many immigrants hold temporary statuses that, by definition, have expiration dates. Some states or institutions interpret this as incompatible with an intent to remain indefinitely, which is the core of domiciles. As a result, a person may reside in a state for years yet still be classified as out of state for tuition purposes because their status does not allow them to form the required intent. Next, let's address the risk of relying on future changes to your status. Tuition classification is based on your current, confirmed, legal status at the time of the decision. Pending applications for permanent residence or other changes are typically not counted. In many cases, once your non-temporary status is approved, you must then begin or complete the required 6 to 12 months of residency to qualify. Because these processes interact and timing is crucial, attempting to manage both complex immigration steps and residency classification without expert help can jeopardize both your legal position and your tuition goals. Now, let's visualize the decision process you're likely to face. This flowchart begins with your current immigration status. If your status is temporary and cannot support intent to remain indefinitely, you are likely to be classified as out of state. If your status can support that intent, you move on to establishing domicile evidence. Next, you must have completed the required 6 to 12 months before the residency determination deadline. If not, classification will likely be out of state. If you have the time, the next step is verifying your financial and civic ties are documented adequately. Only when all conditions align do you reach likely in-state eligibility. Otherwise, plan an appeal or reapply when requirements are met. Now let's turn this process into a timeline example. This timeline illustrates a common path. At month 0, your non-temporary status, such as permanent residency, is approved. In the first month, you obtain a state ID, sign a lease, begin employment, and register your vehicle. Over months 1 through 12, you maintain consistent evidence: taxes when due, utilities, pay stubs, and other documents. At approximately month 12, you reach the residency determination date with the required duration. In the following month, you apply or reapply for in-state classification for the next academic term. The key is synchronizing immigration milestones with academic deadlines so your months of residence count. This illustrative table shows 3 scenarios. For someone moving from temporary to permanent status, the residency clock typically starts on approval of the non-temporary status, and you often need 6 to 12 months before applying for in-state classification for a subsequent term. For a new mover with a qualifying status, the clock generally starts when you establish residence and ties, again usually 6 to 12 months before the residency deadline. For those with a pending status that is not approved, the clock generally does not start. You should reassess eligibility once your status is approved, then plan the required months accordingly. Next, we will convert these insights into concrete steps you can follow. Here is a step-by-step plan. First, confirm exactly which status you hold and whether it can support an intent to remain indefinitely. Next, read your school's residency policy and mark the relevant deadlines on your calendar. Start the clock by securing housing, obtaining a state ID, opening in-state financial accounts, and beginning employment if possible. Document every tax filings, pay stubs, utilities, voter and vehicle registration. Maintain financial independence so the story aligns. Avoid gaps so you complete the 6 to 12 months before the residency determination date. If your status changes, recalculate the timeline from that approval date. Consult an immigration attorney and the school's residency officer. Finally, apply on time and prepare an appeal packet in case you need to challenge a decision. To reinforce this, let's add a mind map of evidence types. This mind map places domicile evidence at the center, with branches for time in state, financial independence, state identification, housing, taxes, civic ties, and employment or income. Each branch should be supported by consistent, dated documents within the qualifying period. The goal is for all branches to tell the same story. You live here, you plan to remain, and you have built your life in this state. Now, let's include a quick markdown checklist you can screenshot. Use this checklist to organize your pathway. Confirm your status, mark deadlines, establish housing and utilities, obtain a state ID quickly, register your vehicle and to vote if eligible, file state taxes as a resident when appropriate, keep thorough financial and employment records, maintain independence, and prepare both your application and an appeal packet by the residency deadline. Next, we will test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: true or false? Having any legal immigration status automatically qualifies you for in-state tuition. Option A, true. Option B, false. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is false. In-state status depends on meeting domicile requirements under state law and institutional policy, which is separate from immigration legality. Question: when does the residency clock often start for someone who moves from a temporary to a non-temporary status? Options: A, when you first move to the state, regardless of status. B, on the date your non-temporary status is approved. C, at the start of the next academic term. D, as soon as you submit a pending application. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is on the date your non-temporary status is approved. In many jurisdictions, you must complete the 6 to 12 months after approval of a qualifying status to support intent to remain indefinitely. Here are the key points. 1. Legal immigration status is not the same as in-state classification. Domicile governs tuition. 2. Time and ties matter. Usually 6 to 12 months plus strong financial and civic evidence. 3. Some temporary statuses cannot establish permanent intent. 4. Pending applications rarely help for the current decision, because adjudications rely on your status at that time. 5. Plan carefully and consult professionals to align immigration steps with residency deadlines. To wrap up, separate your immigration plan from your domicile plan, and then synchronize them. Build consistent evidence across documents with correct dates. After any status change, reassess your residency timeline. Contact your residency office early to confirm what they accept as proof. If denied, consider an appeal with organized documentation and updated evidence. Finally, I have a special request for you. Thank you for watching. If this content helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. Share your story or questions in the comments so others can learn from your experience. Your engagement supports the channel and helps more students avoid costly mistakes.